it is worth noticing, and I'm still sort of frankly gasping for breath, that even on these extraordinarily optimistic forecasts for growth in the economy, even with those, he is projecting that we can't pay any national debt until after 2015. Not after the next election, after one after that. Even with these very high efficiency savings in government spending that's been projected, he's saying that. So he is trying everything and yet not able to say that borrowing and debt will come down in that way. It is a huge political gamble, but if you're looking to see how he's made the numbers add up, I think there are three things going on. One, Robert's pointed to big efficiency savings. Related to that, the government is promising a real squeeze on spending. For people who follow the figures, down to 1.2% growth in real terms, down from what we expected of 1.8%, effectively saying to the Tories, you'll get no more than that out of the system. We're struggling enough to do it. Secondly, he's saying these big national insurance changes, just to give you a hint, we've gone through the book to look for the figures. If you're on over £40,000 a year, that will cost you an extra £1,000 a year, according to the government's Red Book, from 2011. If you're lucky enough to be on much more than that, you will pay, if you're on over £140,000, an extra £3,160.
Just on the NIC?
Sure. Well, the combination of the changes to
plus the extra exercise. All right.
That's according. So basically, they make the numbers add up. Very optimistic on growth, very optimistic on spending control, and pretty heavy taxes on the rich to come in after a general election.
All right. Well, it is becoming Brown no longer married to Prudence, it's Brown the gambler. It's a huge, there's a huge, no, it could come off and we'll have a fourth term of Labour government. But this is an incredible gamble with the nation's finances.
It is. I mean, interestingly, markets have so far reacted fairly positively. Sterling has strengthened a bit, and the stock market has risen quite a lot. Why is that? It's because investors have been focusing on the intrinsic weakness of the economy rather than the sustainability of the national debt. They felt that doing nothing would put us in a worse plight. Now, I think it'll be very interesting to see when they then pick through these numbers in detail whether they still think that all this debt is affordable. And I think this is going to be one of those budget announcements where, frankly, tomorrow's assessment may be a bit different from today's and maybe not so positive.
It's always the case that the initial reaction is different from the subsequent reaction on all budgets. Naga, I think you've got some emails of what our viewers are thinking and saying.
Viewers have been very vocal about today's budget, definitely.
That's a surprise.
Indeed. Kieran O'Donnell from Cambridge has said, will retailers pass on the 2.5% VAT cut to the consumer, or will they use it to bolster their dwindling profits? He finds it implausible that retailers are going to be spending the next few days changing price tags. But if you take the other side of the equation, perhaps from the business point of view, we've also had an email from John Roseby in Norwich. Now, he said that he operates a small cafe takeaway in Norwich city centre. A change in VAT rates is going to cost him many hundreds of pounds. He's going to be replacing menu boards, signage, posters, menus, etc. If this is a temporary measure, now remember we heard that this cut in VAT is only going to last until the start of 2010, then he'll then incur the same expenses again. So not a happy business there at all. Now, Nick, I do want to get one to you as well. Michael Hardiman has emailed in from Brixham, and he said, what is the government likely to do to help people like us on pension credits who are struggling to make ends meet even when times are good? The pension's gone up, the allowance has gone up, but there's been a change on pension credit.
No, exactly. What he has done on the pension, though, and this was noteworthy, is taken the fact that the pension is going to go up a lot next April in any event because inflation is high this year, even though it's dropping, and so I'll bring that increase forward. So in effect, instead of having to wait till next spring, you'll get it in time for the winter, get it in time for Christmas, and that's where he's focused his help this time, on all pensioners, rather than on the very poorest pensioners who get the pension tax credit.
Right, thanks for that, Nick. Well, we should just say that if you do want to see how today's pre-budget report will affect you, do take a look at our special website. It's bbc.co.uk/PBR. You'll also be able to download all the Treasury's official PBR documents as soon as we've got them. Now, let's see how Mr Darling's statement has gone down in the city. Declan Curry's there. Declan, how's it going down there?
Naga, what they've zeroed in on is the debt. It's a bit like you had an overdraft of £4,000 this year, and then you say to the bank manager, do you know what, it's going to be £12,000 instead of that. The numbers are a bit different, of course, when you talk about government finances, but the principle is the same. The one thing they are noticing, though, is that the forecasts for debt in the years following next year are much bigger than they had expected. Rowan Curtis, you've been pouring through the figures on this one. We're looking at an accumulated extra burden borrowing of nearly £300 billion between now and the year 2013. Now that is surprising you and some of your colleagues.
Well, I think what's happening this year and next year is not a surprise, but the years after that appear, and of course, you need to look at the detail, but appear to be much higher. On top of that, we've just seen the Debt Management Office, which issues gilts, come out and say they're going to borrow they're going to issue another 36 billion this year. That's on top of the 30 billion for the bank capitalisation, 10 more auctions, and so that's an awful lot.
What does this tell us? Because the question that we were expecting was, is he going to raise taxes enough in the years ahead to make up for the